considered equality with God something to be used for his own advantage. So when the enemy tempted Adam and Eve, they both ate of that fruit of the tree because they wanted to become like God. That's what sin is. It wants to unseat God, to put self in his place. The second Adam in the Gospels did the exact opposite. Jesus was born of a Virgin Mary 2,000 years ago under the open sky. And his first bed was a manger, a stone block filled with animal feed, with hay and with straw, donkey feed, horse feed. Are you willing to let yourself fade in order to say, I am slave? Secondly, he made self slave. He took action. In verse 7, this is what it read. It says, rather he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a doulos. He took the nature of a doulos, being made in human likeness. He made himself nothing. He made himself a slave. Today we would say he made himself a nobody. It's like that TV series I'm sure you have watched, Undercover Boss. I want you to imagine for a moment that the CEO of the company where you work for puts himself in disguise and comes and works with you. Maybe he comes and he sits in the passenger side of the van that you drive, or the truck you drive at work. Maybe he comes as a substitute teacher. Maybe he comes as a cashier right next to you, a cashier in training. Now, when that CEO is standing there in disguise, is he still CEO? Does he look like CEO? Have you got it? That is what Jesus, he was God in flesh. God in flesh. He said, I make myself slave. In the Undercover Boss series, the boss never tries to overwhelm the worker, never tries to take authority over the worker, never tries to put the worker down in order to put himself up. And our undercover boss, Jesus, never once tried to overwhelm anybody or show off his authority or achieve a position of status. In fact, he took a position of non-status. Slave. Slave. Am I prepared to let myself fade and make myself a slave? You know the intense struggle and pain that Jesus had with God's will as a slave in the Garden of Eden, as the shadow of the cross crept on him. He begged God in Luke 22:42, Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will. But yours be done. An angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. The pressure of my sin was so intense on him that blood oozed from his skin and pooled on the ground where he was praying. If any of you, and if I ever think that I am better than being a slave, that slavery is beneath me, we haven't grasped what slavery really is. Slavery cries out in desperation. It hangs on by your fingernails. Not what I will, but what you will, God. What you will. Not me, but you. Amen. That's the cry of somebody who has said, I am slave. And then lastly and thirdly, he gave blood. He gave blood. Verse 8 is the climax of his life. And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. He yielded his body to 39 lashes, tore his skin and his flesh to the bone. Then he was crucified on a tree, pinned by 3 rusty nails, and tortured for 6 hours. And yet he thought only about you and about me, because he had said, I am slave. He did nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. He valued you and me above himself, and he did whatever he had to do to help us. There's our model, right there. And we've got to have that same mindset today. When he was dying on that cross, he had one thought going through his head: Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. What held him to the cross? It was more than 3 nails. It was his love and his servanthood and his slavery to value you and me and to help us out of our own predicament. He took our punishment on our behalf. And God the Father was so distraught that he actually hid himself from his own Son. Dark clouds, while Jesus was on the cross, covered the sky, and the day turned to night. And then Jesus felt something he had never experienced in his whole life: isolation from God. And in the terrifying fear of loneliness, he cried out, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means in English, my God, why have you abandoned me? You've left me. Where are you? I'm lonely. Is that the kind of mindset you and I have? Am I willing to let myself become number 4 instead of trying to become number 1? Have I made myself your slave? Have you made yourself slave to the people around you? And will I give my blood for you? Will I really do that? I want you to answer this question. How do you respond when someone does treat you like a slave? How do you respond when someone does treat you like a servant? Does treat you like a slave? Do you defend yourself? Do you get frustrated and do you demand your rights? How dare you treat me like that? I'm more than that. You're treating me like I'm a servant? Duh. That's the point. That's the point. How do you treat me like I'm a nobody? Because that's what I have made myself. I am slave. Are you prepared to follow Jesus and say, I'm going to fade? I'm going to fade and I'm going to make myself a slave if I have to give my blood. That's what slaves do. But I'm going to love you because that's what he commanded. That's his word to me. So today, I choose to say, I am slave. Slave to the master. Now tomorrow, I may be with the master. I may be with them. But today, all I can do is imagine Jesus' smile when I do get there. And all I want to do is hear his words from Matthew 25:21. Well done, my good and faithful doulos. You have been faithful in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. All I want to do is hear those words. Let's pray. Lord, we have a choice to make. To be a doulos, to be a slave. And to be a slave, we obey your word. Everything you said. But you've made us friends by telling us why and how you do everything. We have the privilege of knowing your heart and your mind. And you command us to do everything without vain conceit, without comparing ourselves to anyone or being hungry for somebody else's approval. We say, I am slave. And we value others above ourselves. We help anybody and everybody. Are you willing to fade today and say, I'm going to be slave. I'm prepared to give my blood to be your slave. That is the mindset of Jesus Christ. Would you fit into the groove that he made for us today? I am slave. If you're ready to say that, would you stand to your feet today and say, I am slave? Just raise your hands to him because he is our friend. Lord, here we are. And I make the choice to say, I am slave. I do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. And if you are struggling right now to say, I am slave, would you let yourself fade right now? If I can help you, if you've never committed your life to Jesus Christ, come forward right now. We want to help you become a slave of Jesus Christ, to join us as we serve each other, as we serve him. If you've never committed your life, come stand right up front and make that decision today. If any of you needs to come and kneel at the front, you just come and minister to God. raise your hands to the Lord, church. Just praise Him right now. Lord, here we are, your servants. And we serve you and we serve each other right now. We give our time and our hearts and our finances and everything we are. And we fearlessly rise up to say we are slaves. Hallelujah to you, Lord. We praise you, Father. Hallelujah. 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 If anybody else needs prayer, you just step forward right now. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
I'm forgiven because you were